really a totally different style of playing, and I like to really keep my rudimental traditional chops up. Just something much more open and freeing about that style of playing. One thing I can say, despite that giant preaching about strengthening the left hand, one of the things I do believe is that the concept of match grip is basically kind of a fallacy. It doesn't really exist, right? I mean, I've spent the time, you guys maybe have as well, in front of the mirror trying to look and match my left and right side. The reality is, and maybe you even noticed this during the first piece that I played, was that my left hand really looks very different than my right. There's a reason for that. It isn't the same, it's not built the same, it doesn't have the same strength, it doesn't have the same weakness as my right hand might. So I kind of let this go after a while and realized what I don't need to worry about so much is looking the same with the left and right as I do sounding the same. So something, for instance, when I play match grip with the left hand, when I get above about a mezzo forte and all my fingers, outer fingers kind of pop off. And I was kind of taught, don't ever let that happen, that's bad. But it's really only bad if it creates a sound that's bad. Okay, so there's lots of different ways to get to the sound and the style that you want. That's always worth considering. If you guys follow golf, I'm just curious. Golfers, think about Jim Furyk's swing. Like, there's sort of a classic, perfect swing that a guy like Adam Scott might have. And then there's a guy who's a fantastic, consistent golfer who has one of the strangest looking swings in the world, but it works for him, right? Another guy that's self-taught and never had a lesson before is a guy that's won the Masters 2 of the last 3 years, right? So there's something to be said for natural techniques, and listen to your professors. I'm not saying that they don't know what they're talking about, but I'm saying, again, other than shut up and play, another big mantra of my college freshman teacher was, you're always the editor. You're the editor of the information that comes in. So listen to your professors, enjoy their expertise, soak it in, but always kind of edit and make sure that the information fits and works with what you can physically do, okay? Because there's nothing harder than doing something unnatural and just, so a lot of the techniques and styles of things for me are I don't really play at all like I played 20 years ago, because I've kind of got out in the world as a professional and realized, that works for me, that doesn't. One of the only times I will say that I really get to turn over and play traditional is if things are really open and loose. So if you guys are playing, if you still have that technique and you're good at it and you're playing a Sousa march, there's really no reason to play Sousa like this. It's a military style. Turn it over, play military style. It's kind of fun. And I really like just kind of the openness of it. I like to tilt the drum. And you may have also noticed when I was playing match grip, by and large, I really do try to balance myself and keep my left and right leg balanced, equal weight, kind of distributed, keeping my knees bent, neck fairly straight and upright. But with traditional grip, I'll kind of tend to bend a little bit, and it feels more open and loose. And very rarely now you'll find traditional players that are like maybe my age and younger, like 40 and younger, but it's pretty rare to see someone play traditional exclusively. But the guys that do, I actually really like their sound because they play, it's very free, like, because they know that the left is never going to sound just like the right. It's kind of got a cool sound. I kind of like it. So if you don't play traditional, it's worth building up those chops like that. Ultimately, when it's all said and done, all of the practicing not all, but probably 95% of the time, when we're playing this instrument, when it counts, is when there's more people involved, right? Back in the band, back to the production ensemble, right? Something where there's more than just you. So let's talk about the most important tool that you really use, that you're always developing no matter what instrument you're practicing, which is this one, and this one, right? Okay, using your ears. And that's really what all ensemble playing is about. It's a given when you play in an ensemble, you have to show up knowing how to play your part, okay? Think about, how many of you guys did marching band in high school? Quite a few, almost all of you, yeah. So did I, of course, right? I had the good fortune of I was pretty good when I was pretty young, so I was stuck on snare drum as a freshman, not to say stuck, but, and I was glad to do that, but I kind of, in later years, always kind of regretted never doing bass drum, because I realized, in retrospect, the people that actually knew the parts and that knew what was going on were the people in the bass drum line, because you cannot play those parts without not just knowing your part, but all 4, 5, or 6 other parts, plus what the cymbal player's doing, what the quints are doing, or however many they play now, 5, 6, however many it is. The snare line, you have to really know what everyone's doing to play your part effectively. And that's like you're using your ears in ways you don't necessarily think about when you're playing, we'll call that the melodic instrument of the marching band, right? Or of the drum line. Like the snare drum was kind of that's the thing everyone wanted to do, right? But it's funny, in many ways, I kind of learned to appreciate that more over the years. And not coincidentally, in my marching band, we had a very good one in Raleigh, North Carolina. But every single one of in our best years when we had our best drum lines, our bass drummers were always wind players. They were always people that played indoors during the concert season. So we had like 2 oboe players and a flute player and a clarinet player, and then fifth bass was like a big old tuba player, of course. But they were fantastic, and they didn't have drum chops, but they had listening chops that none of us had, and it was really, truly remarkable how well they played. So, point being, when you're playing an ensemble, use your ears and don't ever feel like putting someone on bass drum is a negative thing. It's a really cool thing. Not also coincidentally, the highest paid member of John Philip Sousa's marching band was always his bass drummer. There's a reason for that.